Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Swing of Torah. Okay, we're doing Parsha Vayeishev, and we're learning all about Yosaif Tzaddik, Joseph, and his miraculous dreams, and how he sees dreams that go into the future, and his amazing power of interpretation of dreams. All right, so we're going to start off. We're going to go into the Gemara. We're going to go into Gemara, the Talmud, Brachos, 55b, and we're going to see how dreams are interpreted. It's really interesting. Here, let me bring it up here. Okay, so we see here, so the Gemara says, Amar Rebbe Bizna bar Zavda, Amar Rebbe Akiva, Amar Rebbe Panda, Amar Rebbe Nachum, Amar Rebbe Birim, Mishum Zakin Achat. Umana, and who was that? Rebbe Bana. Okay, so why did it do that? So why did it just bring up all these like rabbis, all these Rebbeim? So that is showing in the Gemara, when showing the transmission of a Torah learning. So it just went through the whole line of a teacher to student. And then finally, the rabbi that's going to say this over is Rabbi Bana. So he says, Esrim v'arba'a fosre chalomos hayu b'Yerushalayim. So Rabbi Bana, he says there was 24 interpreters of dreams that lived in Jerusalem. So pam achas chalamti chalom. So one time he had a dream. I dreamed the dream, he says. V'halachti eitzel kulam. And he went to all of them. He went to all 24 dream interpreters. And it says, Umasha pasar li, and what did they interpret for me? Zeh lo pasar li zeh. And no one gave him the same interpretation. They all gave him different interpretations. V'chulam nis kaimu bi. But all of them were established. All of them happened. Every interpretation of his dream he got, it all happened. So the kayim. So this establishes, Masha Namar, what's said in the Torah, Ko hachalomos holchim achar apeh, that all dreams, they go after the mouth. So what does that mean? So it means whoever interprets the dream, whatever the interpretation of the dream is, that's what's going to be fulfilled. Very interesting. So, and then it says, Atu ko hachalomos holchim achar apeh. Is that to say that all dreams follow just like the interpretation? Karahu. So this is it's just anytime someone interprets a dream, that's what's going to happen. So is this true? So yeah. Ukida Rebbe Elazar. And this goes like what Rebbe Elazar said. So Damar Rebbe Elazar, Menayan Sheko HaChalomos Holchim Achar Peh. So from where do we know this, that all the dreams go after the mouth, that the interpreter is going to say what the dream means? Shnamar, it says in the Pasuk, in the Torah, it says, Vayihi Kasher Pasar Lanu Kain Haya. And it says, and this is talking about Paro's dream of the two ministers, the chamberlain of the bread, the bakers, and the chamberlain and the wine, the sommelier, the royal sommelier. So the butler said to Paro, he said that Joseph interpreted our dreams, and it came to pass as it was interpreted to us. So Amar Rava, so Rava says, Hu demifashar le me'ain chelme. So he says, Rava is saying this is only in a case where it's interpreted for him that's like the dream. So the interpretation has to be relevant to the dream. Person can't just say anything. So for instance, when Joseph was in prison, there was the two ministers of the Pharaoh that were locked up in prison with him. And there was the chamberlain of the bakers, the minister of the bakers, and the minister of the wine, the royal sommelier. And you could tell here that Egypt, they really put a lot of stock on like gourmet food and gourmet wine instead of like a minister of defense, a minister of the interior, a minister of the economy, and ministers of food. So Yosef gave the interpretation. So he said, I believe it was like the minister of the wine, that he was going to return to his duty serving Paro, and then the minister of the bakers that he was going to be killed. So it says here, Shnamar ish kechalomo pasar. And the royal wine sommelier, he's saying here that each man, according to his dream, did he interpret. So we see that it came true. What Yosef said came true. He said that the minister of the bakers was going to be killed, and he was, and the royal wine minister, he was going to return to his job. And why did Yosef give that interpretation? So I believe this Gemara, it says there was a fly that just flew into one of the cups of the Paro. And the sommelier, he wasn't really being negligent. He just didn't know that a fly had just flown into the cup when he handed it to Paro. So it was like out of his control someone. It wasn't a lack of supervision. But the baker, I think there was stones in his bread, and sifting and taking the time and care to make sure that all the food is being prepared correctly, would have helped that situation and remove the stones. And that was just negligence. And because Yosaif saw that one man was negligent, I mean, death, it's pretty harsh, but these were royal positions and these were important positions to that country. And so one wasn't negligent, so he was returned to his job, and then one was killed. As crazy as that is. So Vayares Sar Ha'ofim. So he saw the minister of the bakers, Mana Yada. So what did he know? Why did the baker know that the interpretation was good? If they just had their dream, how did they know that each other's dreams? How did the royal sommelier who returned to his job and wasn't killed, how do you know the baker's interpretation was good? So this is very interesting. So Amar Rebbe Elazar, Milamed shekol echad ve'echad heruchu chalomo ufisron chalomo shel chavero, that they both saw each other's dream, and then that's how they knew that the interpretation of their friend's dream was accurate. Now this is very interesting. So when the dreams come true, so Amar Rebbe Yochanan, hishkim v'nafal lo pasuk l'sok piv. So Rebbe Yochanan, he says, one who wakes up in the morning, that when someone wakes up in the morning, harizen nevuah katana, that this is like a minor prophecy. Someone has a dream right before waking up in the morning. It's very close to nevuah. It's very close to prophecy. And then Rabbi Yochanan, he goes on to say, Rabbi Yochanan, shlosha chalomos mis kaimin. There's three types of dreams that are going to come true. They're going to be established. Chalom shel shakris. So you have a dream right in the morning, right before you wake up, and that dream can come true. V'chalom shechalam lo chavero. If you have a dream about your friend, that dream will come true. Now, it's very interesting. One of my neighbors who I was learning Torah with last Shabbos, he said, it really blew me away. He said, I just had a dream like the other day that we were going to learn Torah together, and then here you are, and we're learning Torah together. So that was one of these kind of dreams that comes true. Very interesting. So when there's an interpretation in the dream, when you get an interpretation in the dream, that dream is going to come true. And we see from the nevuah, we see from the prophecy that's when a malach, that's when an angel speaks to a navi, speaks to the prophet, and is telling him the interpretation. So if you have a dream where you get the interpretation in your dream, that's a malach telling you, what's going to happen, and it's going to come true. Very amazing. So Vayeishev, there's another opinion. There's those who say, Af chalom shenishna, a dream that's doubled. So we see this in Parsha, I think it's Miketz, Parsha Miketz coming up. Shenamar ve'al hishanos hachalom. And the dream was doubled. So Paro, the Pharaoh, he saw the dream, the famous dream of the 7, healthy cows and the 7, thin cows and the 7 healthy ears of grain and the 7, scorched ears of grain, and the bad ones eat up the good ones. And that was the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine. So that's fascinating. So that's showing us what dreams are going to come true here. So we'll go back now and we'll jump into our Parsha Vayeishev, and we'll look at Yosaif's dreams. We'll look at what dreams did Joseph actually have. Let me see if I can bring the other Pesukim up on the screen, and we'll jump into our Parsha. And here we go. Okay, so it says here, let me see if I can adjust everything here. I don't know if this is going to help. So it says our first pasuk here. So if you want to look it up yourself, it's Genesis chapter 37. It's Sefer Bereshis, Lamed Zayin, and it's the 5th pasuk Hey, or it's 5th verse. So Vayichalom Yosef chalom. So Yosef, when he dreamt a dream, Vayaged le'achav, and he told it to his brothers. Vayosifu od sinoso, and they began to hate him even more. So why they hate him? Well, this is why. So this is what he said the dream was about. So Vayomer Aleichem, Shimuna hachalom hazeh sher chalamti. He said, listen to this dream that I have dreamed. I want to tell you about my dream. So he says, V'hine anachnu me'almin aluim v'soch hasadeh. So we were all binding fields. We were binding the wheat in the fields. I don't know if you ever seen the fields, like they roll it up into these like cylinders, wheat, the sheaves of wheat, if you ever seen them. So that we were binding the sheaves of wheat in the field, when suddenly my sheaf, he says, V'hine kama alumasi, my sheaf stood up straight. V'gam nitzva v'hine teshubena alumosechem v'tish tachavena lialumasi. So he says, so my sheaf stood up straight. Joseph is saying his sheaf of wheat stood up straight and remained upright. And then your sheaves gathered around and bowed low to my sheaf. So then the brothers say, Vayomru lo echav, and the brothers say to him, so Tim lo kalenu, you want to rule over us? Im mashol, Tim shol, banu, like you want to rule over us like a dictator? Vayosifu od, senoso, and they hated him even more because he said he was going to be a king over them. Al chalamosav, v'al devarav. And they hated him even more for his talk about his dreams. So it's interesting. So the brothers rejected the dream. They said it wasn't true. And the Zohar says something fascinating. Because the dreams follow the interpretation, the brothers interpreted it as it wasn't real. So Yosaif would have immediately become king, but because the brothers rejected it, their interpretation is not true. It was pushed off for another 22 years. The Zohar says his kingship, Yosef's kingship, was pushed off another 22 years. And we saw earlier, I didn't show you this, but it says earlier in Gemara Brachos that we were looking at in the Talmud, that the maximum extent that a dream can be fulfilled is 22 years. So that was the very last year that the dream could be fulfilled. So the brothers are becoming even angrier. So what was Hashem showing? So why was Hashem showing Yosef and the brothers this vision? So Hashem was showing that Yosef was going to become the Melech. He was going to become the leader of the Jewish people. And because of this famine, the brothers were going to be dependent on Yosef for food, for wheat, but it was also showing that Yosef would be the king and he would be in charge of all gashmias, all the physical and material things. He would be in charge of all the wealth. He would be in charge of all the food, and he would be the king that would supply the Jewish people with everything they needed. So then we see another dream that Yosef tells his brothers about. He says, V'ya chalom od chalom acher. And he dreamed another dream. Vayesaper oso leachav, and he tells it to his brothers. He says, "V'yomer hine chalamti chalom." Oh, I had another dream. I dreamed another dream. V'hine hashemesh v'hayareach v'achad aser kochavim mishtachavim lo. And there was the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. Vayesaper el aviv. Excuse me. Vayesaper el aviv el echad, and he told it to his father Yaakov, Jacob, his father, and he told it to his brothers. Vayigar bo aviv, and his father berated him because his father thought that this was not going to be good for the shalom bayis of the family. The brothers were going to hate him if Yosef had this nevuah, this prophecy that he was going to be king. The brothers who had already agitated him were going to be more annoyed. So Yaakov tried to downplay it. So he gave him a little muster, like, why are you talking these dreams? Vayomer lo, ma hachalom hazeh. He said, what is this dream that you dreamed? Asher chalamta havo navo. Are we to come? Ani ve'imcha, me, I and your mother, v'achecha and your brothers, v'hish tachavos lecha arza, and bow down low to you to the ground. So Yaakov, he berated him. He says, and me and your mother and your brother supposed to bow down to you, like you're the melech now, you're the king. So one thing they thought why it wasn't true, the brothers thought it wasn't true because who was Yosef's mother? His mother was Rachel. His mother was Rachel, and Rachel was already nifter. Rachel had already passed away. But the dream meant Bilhah. The dream meant Bilhah, who was Rachel's maidservant, the other sister, and she was the equal wife, but she was the one that raised Yosef and Benjamin. She raised Joseph and Benjamin as a mom after Rachel died. So Vayi kanu vo echav, and his brothers were they were angry. They were all jealous of him. The aviv shamar es hadavar, but his father guarded this matter, and he knew that this was nevuah from Hashem. All right, so what does this second dream mean? So it's the first dream was Hashem was giving the message that all the gashmias, all the material wealth, the food, the money, everything was going to be in Yosef's control. He was going to be the king. But this also means now when we see the sun, the moon, the stars, and now we're talking about ruchnias. We're talking about spiritual matters. So this means that Yosef was not only going to be the melech in physical matters, he was going to be the king in spiritual matters. He was going to be the gadol ador. He was going to have the greater wisdom of Torah, and the brothers would come to him, and he would teach his brothers Torah. He would teach his brothers the ruchnias and spirituality. Okay, this is a huge topic. It's so deep with the interpretations of dreams. There's so much more we could learn in the Gemara of Brachos. And there's so much more, we can learn about the Chamberlain more. of the bakers and the chamberlain of the wine. And then we can even look at Paro's dreams. So I don't know if we'll save it for Parsha Miketz. If you like it, please, help me out, like, subscribe, share the videos, and ask me any questions of Torah you have. And if you like it, we can do more of these dream interpretations videos. Okay, thank you so much. I hope to see you back again soon on Sweet and Good Torah. Good Shabbos.